This is video 5 of handling ejection marks on Academy Sopwith Camel. We've already chiseled off the putty on this mark and on this mark. And so what we're going to do with this second mark and fourth mark is smooth them down with sanding so that we end up with a mark like that and a mark like that. These are perfectly smooth when you run your thumb over them. I can't tell the difference between the ejection mark or the surface of the wing. They are one and the same, even though you see where the putty fills the mark. Very smooth. If I were to spray primer, to me is primer, over this wing where I've sanded, you would not see the mark at all. It would be invisible against the rest of the wing. So, how do I sand in between detail like this? Over here you see sanding sticks, 1/8 wide. This is a 240 to 320 grit. It has to do with the two sides. One side is 240 grit, as I've marked there with a black pen. The other side is 320. I just happen to have cut this one and used small pieces of it in the past. So you can cut this using a sprue cutter, for example, and cut pieces off like this. Easy enough to do. And once I've cut a piece off, I load it in this, I don't know what to call it. It works like tweezers. As you can see, I got it at a hobby convention, and it's got very strong tension on it. And it's a way to handle objects and work with items. Maybe paint figures and so forth. You can put them in between the jaws, but very strong tension. I wouldn't want to leave my finger in there too long. Very strong. Okay, so what I do is I take the 240 grit and go ahead and load it into the tool like this, so that the surface comes well below. It's tricky because you got to get it so that it fits in the tool. But I've got the 240 side right there. It's about 1/8 of an inch wide. Now if I want to lubricate it and have a little smoother job on sanding, I dip it in some water just to moisten it. Then I come up here with one of the chiseled areas and just start working it down. Gentle motions, easy. I see the water in there, but it doesn't matter. It's going to kind of have reddish water around the working surface. Later on I'll wash all these surfaces after they've been sanded to my satisfaction, and I can turn the tool left or right to get in between the detail and not sand the detail itself. So at this point I'm going to turn off the camera and just work this mark down and this mark down using the 240 side. I'm also going to flip it over and progressively use the less grit side, the 320, as I'm smoothing this. I want to get it to the point where the ejection mark and the wing around it feel exactly the same, so I can't tell the difference. So when I'm done working it with the 320, which is a lighter grit, it's still not going to give me an ejection mark that feels like the rest of the wing. To do that, I use progressively higher grit sandpaper. This is 400 grit. This is 600 grit. And I may go up to 1,000 grit. But basically the principle is when I'm done with the 320 grit, I'm going to take this and wrap my 400 grit around it. It gives it some body, gives it something to hold on to. And I place this assembly again in my tweezers and use this 400 to work in between, as I will with the 600 and as I will again with the 1,000.